Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Today, we're going to talk about a life lesson. Now, I know that may sound a little educational, but I don't want you to think of it that way because what we're discussing is incredibly relevant to the power of Catherine. Today, I want to talk about Princess Catherine's silent message to Prince Harry. As we all know, actions always speak much louder than words. That's exactly what we're diving into today. So, let's get started. We're still dressing up today, and I hope many of you are enjoying it. I know some of you are saying, okay, and that's perfectly fine. But I truly appreciate all of your comments and kind compliments. They genuinely mean so much to me. I'm really enjoying spending this time with all of you, both my longtime subscribers and those who are new here. You all have been wonderful, and I can't thank you enough for your support. And thank you, too, for all the love you've shown Otis. It seems like he's become the real star now. But honestly, I'm perfectly okay with that, and I'm sure he is too. Now, what I want to discuss today is the power that exists in silence. There's so much happening right now with Harry and Meghan, the chaos, the speculation, whether they'll come back to the United Kingdom or whether they won't. There's always something going on. But through all of it, we need to pay attention to what Catherine is doing because, as I've said before, this is a pivotal moment for her. She may not even realize how significant this moment is. Maybe you don't either because, on the surface, it simply looks like she's continuing to do what she's always done. But right now, what she's doing carries even greater meaning than before. Sometimes the strongest message is the one that never has to be spoken. There were no official statements, certainly no interviews, no explanations offered. There was simply action, quiet, consistent action. And that's exactly why I believe Catherine's approach deserves even more attention now than ever before, especially when viewed from a different perspective. That's what I want to explore today. Because while Harry is out there fighting battle after battle, while Harry and Meghan continue to create confusion, uncertainty, and constant drama, they don't seem to have a clear direction. They don't even appear to possess the kind of humble heart that would allow them to build the most meaningful life for their own children. Meanwhile, the most popular royal simply continues showing up and doing something entirely different. On the other side, you have Harry and Meghan with their public relations teams scrambling in every direction, creating more noise, more confusion, and more chaos, trying desperately to manage everything. But there's a lesson here, a lesson Harry needs now more than ever. Sometimes you prove your point far more effectively through silence than by constantly trying to explain yourself or raising your voice because you feel unheard. So today, I want to talk about Princess Catherine and how she has quietly outplayed the broken prince. Because Harry is broken, deeply broken. He's trying to reclaim his princely image while carrying those broken pieces. But once something has been broken, it can never truly return to exactly what it once was. Now, when you compare Princess Catherine and Harry, you see two people whose journeys have been completely different. More importantly, you see two very different responses to pain. Both of them have faced enormous challenges. Both have lived under intense public pressure. Both have experienced personal suffering. But when you look closely, you'll notice they handled those hardships in very different ways. Like all of us, they've experienced pain. They've encountered difficulties. Every person goes through struggles in life, but what really matters is how you choose to show up during those painful moments. That's often what people remember. And I think that's what makes these two stories so fascinating. Sometimes people forget that Catherine has endured tremendous hardships herself. Think about the worldwide attention she's received ever since she entered the royal family as a commoner. She had to withstand endless criticism and constant public opinion. Imagine having people talk about you every single day while the entire world's attention remains fixed on you and every headline becomes news. She also dealt with family pressures, including the embarrassing behavior of her uncle. Then there were the health challenges that had once been private but were forced into the public eye because people refused to respect her privacy. Hospital staff were investigated, and someone even attempted to sell her medical records. Just think about that level of scrutiny. Most people could never imagine living under those circumstances. Now compare that with Harry's own pain. He experienced the heartbreaking loss of his mother, Princess Diana, at a very young age. He struggled with growing up in the spotlight. He spoke extensively about being the spare in his memoir Spare. He also served in the military, an experience he remains very proud of. At the same time, it's important to recognize that his military service came with levels of protection and privilege that the average serviceman or servicewoman simply wouldn't have. That's not meant as criticism. It was understandable given who he was, but his experience was undeniably different from that of an ordinary member of the armed forces. And for Harry, that was ultimately a fortunate thing. Harry has spoken very openly about the hardships he's experienced throughout his life. We understand that. But pain alone does not define who we are. What truly defines us is the way we respond to that pain. I want you to think for a moment about Jacqueline Kennedy after the assassination of her husband. She witnessed one of the most horrific moments imaginable, right in front of her. In the immediate shock and trauma, she even climbed out of the motorcade trying to gather pieces of his skull, hoping somehow to put them back together. Yet, she never spent years publicly talking about that experience or constantly revisiting the agony she endured. Now think about Queen Camilla. There were reports over the years suggesting that she had caused difficulties for both Catherine and Harry. Stories circulated claiming she doubted Catherine because she wasn't born into royalty, and there were certainly articles written about Catherine that were believed to have originated from Camilla's circle. Harry experienced his own issues with Camilla as well, but he chose to write extensively about them in Spare. He criticized her, called her names, and portrayed his stepmother as one of the villains in his story. Catherine, however, had no real relationship with Camilla until she married into the royal family. Yet when it came to any difficulties between them, we never heard Catherine publicly discuss them. Those stories surfaced through the media, not through Catherine herself. That's the contrast I want you to notice. This is exactly why Catherine's approach stands apart. Her message has never been delivered through interviews or public accusations. Instead, she has carried herself with quiet dignity. Meghan likes to speak about the silent dignity of her own mother. She has said, "They hunted my mom down, and you've never heard her say a word." She remained in silent dignity for 4 years. But we know that later on, Doria did speak publicly. She discussed race as an issue and shared her own perspective, saying she remembered telling Meghan that race would become part of the story. Many people viewed that as a direct criticism of the royal family. So, when Meghan talks about silent dignity, that argument becomes much harder to maintain. Do you know who still consistently embodies quiet dignity? Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Despite every challenge she's faced throughout her life, and especially during her years within the royal family, she has never repeatedly returned to those painful chapters. Instead, she has continued showing up. Again and again, she demonstrates gratitude through her actions while continuing to move forward despite everything she's experienced. She has remained committed to the causes she embraced from the day she married into the royal family. She continues serving, supporting her young family, caring for her children through her own personal challenges, standing beside her husband, the future king, and helping prepare her son, who will one day follow that same path, because sometimes real strength is quiet. Sometimes healing doesn't announce itself or constantly remind everyone of the pain that came before it. Sometimes healing simply happens in silence. Sometimes it's nothing more than choosing peace. And this is where the lesson for Harry becomes so important, because this is where Harry's story starts becoming more complicated. He may say he wants peace, but many of his actions suggest otherwise. He speaks about wanting reconciliation, yet there seems to be very little acknowledgement of the pain he himself has caused or any willingness to apologize for it. He says he wants to protect his family, and perhaps that's genuinely how he feels. But here's the deeper issue. You cannot fully heal if you continue revisiting the same wounds over and over again while expecting people to keep feeling sorry for you. Eventually, every person has to ask themselves a simple question. Is this helping me move forward, or is it keeping me attached to the very pain I'm trying to escape? That's where the difference between privacy and peace becomes so important. We know both Harry and Catherine have expressed a desire for privacy. We know they both want peace. But Catherine has demonstrated something through her actions. Think back to 2020 when Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal life. They said they wanted independence. They wanted freedom from the institution. Despite all the privileges that came with royal life, they chose to remove themselves from it. The message at the time was clear. They wanted space to live life on their own terms, to board a plane whenever they wished, leave palace rules behind, and create a completely different future. At the same time, however, they still wanted to remain connected to the institution while operating by their own rules. If that isn't a contradiction, it's difficult to know what is. Because true freedom isn't simply walking away from something. Real freedom also means no longer allowing that thing to control your emotions. Just look at Harry's reaction when he learned that his security arrangements would not be changed. How did he respond? Reports said he was devastated. He broke down in tears and was deeply upset over the decision. And that may be the biggest difference people are noticing today. Catherine is focused on what's ahead. She's showing gratitude for simply being able to live life again, even quietly taking on the challenge of climbing Britain's 3 highest peaks in less than 24 hours to highlight the life she has after cancer. Meanwhile, Harry continues battling the past. One moment there's talk about bringing his family back to the United Kingdom, and the next he's saying they won't come because he didn't receive the level of security, the creme de la creme protection that he believes he should have. The larger lesson here, and what I really want everyone to understand, is that this goes beyond royalty. All of us experience moments when life hurts us. We all have times when we want to lash out, tell everyone what happened, and make sure the world hears our side of the story. Harry did exactly that. He was hurting, and he wanted the entire world to know. But he also chose to tell that story while earning millions of dollars from it. Every one of us has moments when we feel broken. We all have times when we feel misunderstood. Harry certainly presents himself as a broken prince, and he has made sure the public knows it. There are also moments when we believe other people owe us something. But eventually, every person reaches a choice. Do you carry that burden forever? Or do you decide it no longer gets to control your life? Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't convincing everyone that you were right or proving that you were wronged. Sometimes the real victory is reclaiming your life despite the pain you've endured. It's recognizing the privilege that still exists even while you're carrying that pain. And don't misunderstand me, Harry has experienced real pain. But think about the extraordinary privilege that has existed alongside it. Even so, he continues talking about his suffering as though those privileges somehow don't matter, as though carrying that pain quietly could never be enough. I believe Catherine's greatest message to Harry wasn't really a message at all. It was her example. She reminds people that you can endure incredibly difficult circumstances and still choose peace. You can experience deep pain and continue moving forward. And sometimes the strongest response you can give is no response at all. That is how Catherine continues to show up. That is how she continues to succeed despite everything she has faced. She keeps moving forward with peace. She carries her pain while looking toward a brighter future. And that's something Harry has struggled to do. Even if he understood that lesson, I'm not convinced he would embrace it because he seems too focused on himself to fully recognize it. This is the moment for Harry to stop fighting yesterday, stop behaving like a spoiled and entitled man, and start protecting his future while his father is still alive and while his children are still young. Hats off to Princess Catherine for showing us that you can face life's greatest struggles with quiet strength and still come out on top.